Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Including the photograph and the shirt.
Oh, the chairman will be pleased.
We get a lot of football programmes turning up these days.
Yes.
But what's particularly unusual is that they're all yours. And
Yes. I don't collect football programmes. I don't collect football memorabilia.
You don't?
No.
So
they're all mine.
they're all yours?
Oh, yeah.
So you've been to all these matches?
Yeah.
I've got 3 sons, and I take my sons off to the football quite often. But wasn't it a bit slightly unusual for a girl to be going to football?
It was most unusual.
And how did it all start then?
I don't know. My father was very keen on football. He was a very good player who could have turned professional, and I got very keen on football. And my first great football hero was Stanley Matthews.
Right. Well, we have him here.
And I actually went to Villa Park one day just to see Stanley Matthews play.
And how old were you then?
13, 14.
Really?
Yes.
And did you went by yourself? Or?
Oh, yes. They used to have football special buses from town.
But you must have been the only girl on board.
Probably, yes.
You've got several different clubs. What's going on here then?
Well, I went to Birmingham one week and Wolves the next because I couldn't afford to go away with Wolves very often. And so I went to Birmingham.
I see. But this one's slightly scruffy. What was going on here then? Why was this?
Well, that was my very first match. It was a very dreary, cold February, and I was overjoyed at being able to go.
Your father had finally allowed you to go?
Yes, he'd allowed me to go.
So when you went to these matches as a young girl, I mean, it must have been extraordinary with no other girls there. It was all boys.
Well, there were 1 or 2, and sometimes I used to take people with me, not football fans, but people who would come to keep me company. And I had a friend who used to stand on the terraces knitting. She never saw anything that went on the pitch. She just stood there turning out her little woolly garments while I was watching the drama. And then as soon as the whistle went, she'd put it back in a bag and off we'd go. That's the times when you find out who your friends are,
well,
really.
Absolutely. Here you've got an England-Denmark match. Well, I mean, neither of those are Wolves or Birmingham. So
No, but it was at Wolverhampton.
Oh, is that so?
And it was a World Cup qualifier. And they hardly ever had World Cup qualifiers except at Wembley. This was interesting from my point of view later on because 3 of the players were killed in the Munich disaster. That team there, you can see, is the old Manchester United pre-Munich.
Right.
And that one is just after the Munich disaster, when they were a team of anybody who they could buy.
Well, and look, I mean, it's just a complete...
There's hardly anybody left.
No.
I mean, I was at that match, and the atmosphere was phenomenal. The outpouring of sympathy and grief for Manchester United had to be seen to be believed, and everybody was wanting United to win.
Sadly, probably the most valuable ones are the Manchester United match programmes. These sort of programmes are worth, perhaps £100, £150 each for the really good ones. So thank you so much for bringing them. It's a fascinating story. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
This is Jim Slevin, who is in fact my husband's grandfather.
Right. Does he look like him?
He does, strangely enough. Yes,
he looks wonderful tash.
He looks more like my husband than he looks my husband's father, which
Lovely.
Is surprising. Must have jumped a generation. Yes.
And to me, it's an unmistakable cherry and white kit of the Wigan Wasps.
Yes, in fact, he was one of the 4 founder members, along with Baldwin, Underwood, and Wardle, who set up the Wigan Wasps team.
Right.
I think it was 1817.
Right. And what's fantastic is looking down here. We've got the cap that he's wearing there.
That's right.
And we've got the 2 shirts, one of which he was sporting for this portrait in oil.
That's right.
And the caps, of course, Wigan Wasps,
yes.
Wigan Rugby Football Club, because there's the monogram. So that's rather nice. Now, I know that the name Wigan Wasps was only used for the first few years because it then just simply became the Wigan Football Club.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Nowadays there's the Wigan Warriors and the Wasps is a swimming club or something.
That's right.
He obviously was well badged. There's 2 or 3 here, and a very similar looking 9-carat gold badge here, which bears his name. And at that time, he was playing 3-quarter back.
Well, I gather he played 3-quarter back most of the time.
Right.
But he was, in fact, captain for 11 years.
11 years?
11, yes.
Gosh,
yes.
what an
but
athlete.
It would appear that he never played for county. And although he was invited to go to Australia, he didn't go because his mother decided he was too young at 18.
No, what a disappointment for a young
Well,
man.
it must have been. It must have been, yes.
Well, he's obviously a real local hero to Wigan, and in fact, there's a lovely sepia photograph of him in his kit, as was, showing league game cups. Now, of course, the collectors for this sort of material, not that you're going to sell this, because this is a true family heirloom,
That's right.
are fairly local.
Yes.
Now, football memorabilia can be worth a vast amount because it has a global audience of collectors. For Wigan items, I think as a little sort of archive,
Yes.
you're probably looking, including the 9-carat badge, at somewhere around £500 to £800 as a value, potentially
Yes.
at auction.
Yes.
But I know you'll never sell it
No.
because this is your own sort of flesh and blood, so to speak.
This is a football team that every fan in the country would recognise, and many others as well, I suspect. The 1966 England World Cup winning team, with all the signatures.
With all the signatures.
How did it come into your possession?
I bought it off a guy about 8 years ago that was a bit strapped for cash.
Right. And he collected all the signatures?
He collected all the signatures, yeah.
Yeah.
Including the Kenneth Walton one.
Yeah, with a quote.
Yeah.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.
Correct.
So that's a lovely thing.
It is.
Did you pay a lot of money for it or
I
not?
paid £120 for it.
Well, I think that was reasonable. There is a lot of interest in World Cup memorabilia, particularly, obviously, of the 66 Cup-winning side. And I would think today at auction something like this would probably fetch between £500 and £700.
Right?
Great thing.
Yep.
So this is the actual football that was used in the 1911 Cup final.
It is, when Bradford City 1-0 victory over Newcastle United for their only FA Cup win.
And how did it come into your possession?
Well, it actually belongs to the club.
So
it
it's-
usually lives in the trophy cabinet.
So it's been with Bradford ever since
It has,
their only FA Cup victory. And of course that was pre-Wembley days, wasn't it?
It was. They actually drew 0-0 at Crystal Palace, and then the replay was at Old Trafford.
Oh, was it?
On the Wednesday, apparently.
Great day for Bradford.
Great day, yeah. One of a few great days, although things are quite good at the moment.
Yes, because they're back in the Premier League, aren't they? Well, that really is something special, to have a ball from the Cup final dating from 1911. And if it came up on the open market, I would expect it to fetch probably in the region of £3,000 to £5,000 at
Well, the
auction.
chairman will be pleased.
So what's your connection with Sunderland Football Club?
My granddad played for him.
Right. And is he by any chance the fellow who's mentioned on the back of this gold
Yes.
and enamel medallion?
Yes.
Charles Gladwin?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, obviously I saw the gold flash and the enamel colours. It's a Football League medallion.
Yeah.
And it does have the full inscription, Champions Division 1, 1912-1913, Sunderland, and the name Charles Gladwin. Now this is 15-carat gold. It was made by Fattorinis, the great medallists and silversmiths. It's hanging from a later chain.
I think it was just a watch chain that my
Right.
granddad had.
Right.
And they had it cut down and made into 3 chains for daughters.
He obviously must have been a terrific player because not only did he win the Football League medal, but he also was presented with another gold medallion by the Athletic News.
Yeah.
And this one is League winners 1912-1913.
Yeah.
Now, presumably, this is Charles Gladwin's shirt.
Yes.
Now, what a rare survival. Sunderland, of course, are one of the great and biggest teams
Yeah.
in Britain. And I know they've got that wonderful Stadium of Light.
Yeah.
But of course, it was Roker Park, wasn't
That's
it?
right.
You won't remember seeing him play,
No.
but do you remember him as an older man? And
Yes. Well, he worked in Treaton Colliery.
right, that's quite near here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And he had to retire from football because he had a cartilage operation, and then he had to have his leg off,
Gosh.
bit above the knee.
Right.
And then he went, obviously, back into pit,
Yes.
but then he were a train driver for the pit.
The
Yeah.
wages then were so little
Oh, yeah.
with football
That's
that you
right,
just
yeah.
had to have another job.
Yeah, yeah.
Incredible. I mean, what footballers are paid now compared to what they were then.
Yeah,
It's true spirit of football. He must have been an amazing guy.
yeah.
Because it's Sunderland, one of the greatest teams, and the fact that this is top of the First
Yeah.
Division, the Football League, at auction that would fetch between £2,000 and £3,000.
Good.
This particular medal here Not as rare as this, about 500 to 800. Right. But there's more, and I just love the box, a nice crushed Morocco box. The Football Association Challenge Cup, 1912-1913.
That's my cousin's.
That's your cousin's. Well, I hope they're watching, because this is worth £2,000 as well.
Right.
But you see, I'm giving you individual values, but of course the real value comes if you keep them all together. And my own feeling is that if these came up for auction, you'd have enormous interest, and they might make between 5,000 and 7,000 for the collection, including the photograph and the shirt.
You've got a fantastic collection of football autographs here.
Yeah, I know.
How did you get into it? How old were you?
I was about 12 or 13.
So,
I went down to Chelsea, and then I found out I could get them down to hotels and from trains and all that, you know, different things.
So you didn't always get them outside the grounds, obviously?
Oh, no, I never got them outside the ground.
You never got them outside the ground?
No.
Always at the team hotels?
Yeah. And on the trains.
Right. Well, obviously on the trains, because we've got a photograph of you.
That's right,
And
yeah.
how old are you here?
About 12 to 13.
12 or 13?
Yeah, well, that's Les Medley, the great Tottenham team when they did the double with a Paddington Station, and I'm behind him, unfortunately.
So that's the back of you there?
Yeah, that's the back of me, yeah.
Right, OK.
Yeah.
Shame you didn't you sort of pushed forward a bit more. And then this is an interesting thing, Charles Buchan's Football Monthly, and there's a little bit of an article about you. How come Charles Buchan knew all about you then?
Because I used to work part-time for him. I used to do the teas and all that. You know, I went on holidays because he used to give me all these photographs.
So he'd give you the photos and you'd then go and get them signed?
Yeah, fantastic man.
And he's very nice about the players. He's well done, those players who you've said are very nice.
Oh, yeah.
It's a curious point that they are all exceptionally fine players as well as being kind-hearted.
Oh, yeah.
It's very nice, it's very enthusiastic, and of course you've got just simply hundreds of them. I mean, there are, I don't know, 4 or 5 albums on there, and loads and loads more.
I mean, and when you take them out, I used to sell them as well.
You used to sell them?
Yeah.
You sell them at the ground?
Yeah.
Very good. And how much were you selling them for?
About penny a top.
Penny a top.
It was only 9p to get in, 9p to get in there.
To get into the ground?
Yeah.
And so did you... And
so you're talking about 4.5p to get in, eh?
And you've got an incredible range of other autographs. And who was your favourite player then, who you felt was sort of nice to you and...
Oh, no doubt. I see head and shoulders above everyone else. It was John Charles.
Right.
Fantastic player.
And here you've got, who have we got here? We've got Danny Blanchard. Because in that Charles Buchan article, it's mentioned that you felt that he was always very generous and kind to you. And we've got Stanley Matthews somewhere lurking here as well, haven't you? Because that's something that, who have we got here?
Yes,
there he is, there's Stanley Matthews now. So, and you obviously met him too?
Oh, yeah, loads of times.
Did you?
Stanley Matthews, best wishes.
Best wishes, that's jolly nice, isn't it? Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's a great personal collection, and I'm quite sure, you know, it's got too many memories to want to sell it. However, one of the things that one has to try and work out is, you know, what on earth is it all worth? Obviously, one would have to go through them all very carefully, but, you know, I would be amazed if you haven't got somewhere between £6,000 and £8,000 to sell, really? and you know, you ought to insure them for really quite a bit more than that. I mean, it is a really wonderful group of and a great bunch of stories. I mean, a wonderful memories for you.
Thanks for listening to it anyway.
Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.